So first we're going to look at the basic plan. And the basic plan includes many, many sections. And I'm going to go over each of those sections briefly. First, you have your introductory material. And that can enhance the accountability with community partners, including first responders, local emergency managers, and public and mental health officials. And it makes the school EOP easier to use. It typically includes a cover page, a promulgation document signature page, an approval and implementation page, records of changes, record of distribution, and a table of contents. Next, you have a purpose and situation overview. This sets the foundation for the rest of the school emergency operations plan. The basic plan's purpose is a general statement of what the school emergency operations plan is meant to do. The situation section explains why a school EOP is necessary, covers a general discussion of the threats and hazards that pose a risk to the school and would result in the need to use the plan, and dependencies on parties or partners outside the school for critical resources. Next, you have your concept of operations. This explains in broad terms the school administrator's intent with regard to operation. It includes how you will utilize what we call the ICS, or Incident Command System, and the NIM structural systems, which is the National Incident Management System. Essentially, it's who is in charge, what does the map look like for who's going to take care of what, both including within the school and then with your emergency response partners. Organization and assignment of responsibilities section. This provides an overview of the broad roles and responsibilities of school staff, families, guardians, and community partners, and of organizational functions during all emergencies. An example would be teachers will be responsible for the supervision of students and shall remain with students until directed otherwise. Teacher responsibilities include directing students to inside or outside assembly areas, accounting for students when classes relocates to an outside or inside assembly area or evacuates to another location, or reporting missing students to the designated person in charge, and obtaining first aid services for injured students, and if trained and certified in first aid, rendering first aid if necessary. Also in this section, you're going to describe informal and formal agreements for the sharing of resources during an emergency. For example, evacuation locations to a busy parking lot, or excuse me, a business's parking lot, and having the agreements in place beforehand so that it ensures quick and efficient attention when it's needed. Next, you have direction, control, and coordination. This describes the framework for all direction, control, and coordination activities. It includes who can make decisions at any given time. Do teachers have discretion on making decisions, or only the administration? This section sets up the incident command system structure as it might be used for the school. It provides the relationship between the school's EOP and the district or the broader community's emergency management system. It talks about who has control of equipment, resources, and supplies needed to support the school's emergency operations plan. Next is information collection, analysis, and dissemination. This addresses the role of information in the successful implementation of the activities that occur before, during, and after an emergency. It identifies a type of information that will be helpful in implementing activities that occur. Things such as before and during might be weather reports, law enforcement alerts, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration radio alerts, crime reports. After, it might include such things as mental health agency websites and hotlines, emergency management and relief agencies websites and hotlines, assisting in all aspects for recovery. Then we have training and exercises. This describes the critical training and exercise activities the school will use to support the emergency operations plan. This includes core training objectives and frequency to ensure that staff, students, faculty, parents, even community representatives Understand their roles, responsibilities, and expectations before, during, or after an event. Then you have administration, finance, and logistics. This covers general support requirements and the availability of services and support for all types of emergencies, as well as general policies for managing those resources. It should identify and reference policies and procedures that exist outside the plan. This section should identify administrative controls such as budget and acquisition policies and procedures, and requirements that will be used to provide resource and expenditure accountability. As you can see from this one example, it shows the need to incorporate a lot of different people into the development of your plan, in this case probably your district clerk. It also briefly describes how the school will maintain accurate logs of key activities. It briefly describes how vital records, student records, will be preserved. Details may include be contained in your continuity of operations annex, which I'll get to in a little bit. And it also identifies general policies for keeping financial records, tracking resource needs, tracking source and use of resources, acquiring ownership of resources, and compensating the owners of private property that may be used by the school. Then you have your actual plan development and maintenance. This discusses the overall approach to planning and the assignment of plan development and maintenance responsibilities. It describes the planning process, the participants in that process, how the development and revisions of different sections of the plan, your basic plan and annexes, are coordinated before an emergency. And it assigns responsibility for the overall planning and coordination to a specific person or a specific position. And it provides for a regular cycle of training, evaluating, reviewing, and updating the school's emergency operations plan. And finally, you have authorities and references. This provides the legal basis for emergency operations and activities. It includes the list of laws, statutes, ordinances, executive orders, regulations, and formal agreements that are relevant to emergencies. And it provides provisions for the succession of decision-making authority and operational control to ensure that critical emergency functions can be performed in the absence of the school administrator. How many times has an emergency occurred and the school administrator or the principals may be all out at a meeting? What is your ladder of decision-making authority? Who can make decisions when the person above that isn't there? And who within the school can make what types of decisions and when? Remember that once you have all these sections in place, you have created this full document, you need to remember to be careful that you don't share every part of the emergency operations plan with every partner or every person. The planning team needs to determine what should and what should not be shared and with whom it can and cannot be shared. Remember that there may be things such as your lockdown procedures. You don't want everybody to know your lockdown procedures. However, evacuation, everybody's going to need to know about how to evacuate the school if necessary. But do they need to know the specifics as to where? Maybe only those people who are directly involved in it need to know where you evacuate when you do evacuate.